Hello, and welcome to the Vonage Women in Technology panel in honor of International Women's Day 2021. I see we have viewers tuning in from all over the world. Thank you so much for making a point to join this important discussion today. Each year, International Women's Day celebrates the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women, and also puts forth a call to action for accelerating gender parity. The 2021 International Women's Day theme is Choose to Challenge. A challenge world is an alert world. We can choose to challenge to call out gender bias and inequity. We can choose to seek out and celebrate women's achievements. Collectively, we can all help create an inclusive world. Today's panel discussion features some Vonage leaders who will provide insight into their experiences, both as women and advocates for women in technology. Through their stories, you'll learn how they navigated the tech industry and what their experience has taught them. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself and our panelists. I'm Nahrin Jalal, and I'm based in Toronto, Canada. I'm a developer educator here at Vonage, director of Women Who Code Toronto, and also lead software development instructor at U for Change, which is a STEM program for marginalized youth in underserved communities. And I'm really so pleased to be here today with an incredible group of inspiring women from Vonage who are driving innovation and leading and shaping the company and the technology industry as a whole. Joining us, we have Marina Serrano Montes, lead application developer, Danielle Vergara, director of alliances, Lauren Lee, developer education manager, and then Amitha Pulijala, director of product for video. Thank you all so much for being here today. Before we get started with our discussion, I'd like to invite each of you to share a brief overview of your experience advancing in the tech field and the responsibilities of your current role. Lauren, would you like to start us off?
I would love to. Thanks, Nahrin. Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren. My pronouns are she, her. And let's see, I'm an English teacher turned coder. I was lucky enough to attend a coding boot camp for women and gender diverse folk in Seattle, Washington, and have found my way to the developer education team here at Vonage. We create content around how to use our APIs and SDKs and products, whether it's a YouTube video, a live stream on Twitch, or a blog post. That's what we do. And it's super fun and couldn't be surrounded by a more incredible team. So thank you, Nahrin, for having this today and for hosting us. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lauren. Amitha, would you like to go next?
At the video product team at Vonage. I'm driving the strategy and vision for the Vonage Video API platform. I work with an incredible team here at Vonage, and I love exploring new technologies. And I certainly believe that product success comes by having a very clear vision combined with a powerful storytelling and undeniable customer obsession. So on my personal side, if I'm not thinking, talking, or writing about technology, you'll find me listening to classical music or running a marathon somewhere. So I'm so pleased to be here and talking to you today.
So wonderful. Thanks, Amitha. Danielle, how about you go next?
Yeah, I'm definitely not as ambitious as Amitha running marathons. But yeah, so I'm Danielle. I'm the director of alliances and alliance marketing at Vonage. Basically, what that means is I manage our strategic partnerships in the Northeast. So think Salesforce, ServiceNow, Microsoft. I think my route to technology has been it wasn't intentional. You know, I started off 16 years old working at BMW of Manhattan, thinking that, you know, that's where I wanted to be in fashion as well. So just kind of thinking, you know, I would be in these two worlds. And I applied to like a million jobs and got a job at Salesforce to manage their front desk. And I had no idea what Salesforce was at the time. And pretty much all I could put together was that you can run your business through your phone with Salesforce. And so the past 5 years, more than that, since 2013, I've been lucky to kind of progress in my career in technology and brought me to where I am today. I also am a leadership. I'm on the leadership team for Vonage's first ERG, which is called the Black Experience Group. And it's something that it's pretty much the highlight of my 2020, being a part of that.
Thanks so much, Danielle. Marina, would you like to finish off?
Yeah, sure. Then it is a pleasure to be here today. I'm Marina. I decided to be software engineer. I will never forget the look of my parent face when I say I want to be an engineer. On my first day at the university, there were 45 boys and only 4 girls. For sure, it was not my expected first day at the university, but soon I felt I felt I was confident and I started to deep dive into this incredible world, which allowed me to turn my profession into my passion. I started my career at Telefonica as a developer, where I had the opportunity to work in different projects focusing on health and real-time communication. Then I joined TalkBox as an Android developer, and right now I'm application developer for the video engineering team at Vonage. One of the things that I have observed when I started to be more involved in the tech industry was the gender gap. The same that I have observed here in the Spanish community, it was happening in the US or in other countries of Europe. So in 2015, I decided to move to the action, and I co-founded Girls in Tech Spain. It is a non-profit organization focusing on the engagement, empowerment, and education of the women in technology. And from that moment, we have not stopped to do activity to promote the women roles in the technology. Some months ago, I decided to start to combine my professional activity at Vonage with a collaboration to a startup project, Viva to improve and optimize the selection and the recruitment. And today, I'm really excited to be here today and share my history and all our thoughts together.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you all for sharing. So the way this will work is that I will be guiding the discussion for the next 30 minutes, and then I'll open it up to our viewers for questions. So to all of you watching, please post your questions in chat and as we go along, and we'll address as many of those as possible at the end of this guided portion. All right, I'm seeing a ton of folks saying hello in chat. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining us. So to start us off, as we mentioned, the theme of International Women's Day 2021 is Choose to Challenge. From challenge comes change. What does that phrase mean to you when it comes to your career? Danielle, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one motto that I live really close and dear by is to do something every day that scares you. And I think it aligns very closely with choose to challenge. I think that when you choose to challenge, you're not only challenging yourself, but also the people around you. And I think that that's the way that you grow, right? There's times that you're going to be uncomfortable doing different things in your career. And I think of the first time I was asked to be I started off at Vonage, or New Voice Media, which was the company that Vonage acquired to fill the contact center gap. But I started off at New Voice Media as a program manager. And when my current manager at the time said, I want you to be an alliance manager, I was like, oh my God, no. I do not like presenting. I do not like doing this. I don't want to do that. And it was just terrifying. But I was like, you know what? I live by this motto. I need to make myself uncomfortable to grow. And this is the only way that that's going to happen. And I love that this year's theme is choose to challenge, because that's just how we're all going to grow. And you should be uncomfortable sometimes, when you get a new promotion, or when you're applying for that new job that you don't, fit the criteria 100%, and you don't meet all the qualifications. It should feel a little uncomfortable. Because that's just how you're going to grow. And that's kind of the motto that I live by. And yeah, it applies to me almost every day.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you. Lauren, would you like to go next?
I mean, it's everything to echo what Danielle said, because I totally agree. I think change only comes from being uncomfortable, from pushing ourselves and our communities to step outside of those comfort, safe spaces. No, safe spaces should stay, but comfort should be the thing that we push beyond, right? And to demonstrate and share with folks when we do make mistakes, to be vulnerable with that. Like, we're human. And so to share that and acknowledge when we're facing imposter syndrome and feeling uncomfortable, and owning that, and kind of being it's terrifying sometimes to like let go the ego and say when you don't know something or you've made a mistake. But I think to model that can be really a positive factor for change.
So well put. Thank you, Lauren. Amitha, would you like to go next?
Absolutely, and I totally agree with Lauren and Danielle. So for me, I've always felt challenging the status quo is difficult, very difficult, because deep in our brains, we are wired to seek that acceptance, and we are wired to see that comfort following the tribe, because you're not getting challenged. You just follow the tribe, and you see that comfort in numbers and so on. But I think the most satisfying moments of my career came along when I was challenged, right? I was forced to think, I was forced to adapt to something new, and I was forced to innovate. So those were the moments where I felt most challenged as well as most satisfying. So I think to me, this theme on the International Women's Day is basically holds me accountable to ensure that I'm doing all I can as a woman, and also to be a role model for my daughter, right? Because I think if I don't show her that I'm taking these challenges, I'm being uncomfortable, and that's still okay because I'm progressing. I think I'm not doing my part. So I'm totally happy being here and sharing my experiences today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amitha. Marina, how about you go next?
Yeah, sure. I think that from challenges come changes, and the change is a great opportunity to do something amazing. Yeah. So for me, as a woman, well, as a developer woman in an industry mainly surrounded by men with a lot of stereotypes, generalization, it can be difficult to compete. But I always choose to challenge the expectation that people have about women roles in technology. One of the main challenges I have found was the lack of role model that Amitha has commented. So that is why I trying to put all my energy to promote women role, to inspire girls to choose technical career. I think that right now the technology has a new look, new profile, new opportunity. So choose to challenge is a great opportunity. It's an invitation to work together to try to create a new world, more inclusive in all the aspects.
Wonderful. Such insightful answers. Thank you, panelists. My next question is, just going off of this one, can you give an example of a challenge you faced as a woman rising through the ranks of a technical organization that you felt you handled successfully, or you would handle differently given the knowledge and experience you have today? Amitha, how about you start us off for this one?
Absolutely. So I think we've all faced this, right? So one of the very uncomfortable realities of being a female leader is walking into the meeting and realizing that you are one of the very few women, if not the only woman in the room among your male counterparts. So you can look at it as a challenge, or you can look at it as an opportunity to stand out and be remembered. So initially in my career, I always felt that there were very few women role models within the company or organization or team to learn from and who can advocate for me. And there were many instances when I did step back and did not fight for the opportunity, maybe to lead an important initiative or to take up a new challenge and so on. Though it is a big advantage, I would definitely say, to have a boss or mentor advocate you. I later realized that staying true to yourself and playing on your strengths are key to raising above any perceived notions. So with that experience, today I would not step back from any opportunity, and I would not try to blend with the crowd as much as possible. And I would step forward and try to make most of the opportunity. And that's a big lesson that I learned, that just go ahead and take that opportunity and never step back. Be bold and take that opportunity.
That's excellent advice. Thank you. Lauren, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Absolutely. Gosh, so early on in my software engineering career, I was working at a big FANG company, and my manager told me that we didn't need to worry about hiring diversity on our team because I was already our diversity hire, so we had covered it. Which felt really toxic and gatekeeping and awful. And I swiftly left, understanding that I was a number to that team and wasn't perceived or seen from that lens, leadership as a whole person, that I got them a gender hire and that was it for them. And wasn't about my contributions that I was capable of providing, but something, that didn't sit right. And so I'm now forever, every time I interview, look for that as an opportunity to ask questions about diversity, equity, inclusion, declare that it's something important to me. I have a podcast that celebrates diversifying tech and celebrating unique journeys to tech. And so it's important to me that I end up at a place, right, that like values that. And Vonage was so incredible with me, like early in that interview process and demonstrating that they valued it right back. And so using those early conversations with companies to evaluate where you're going to end up and making sure that you're not just a number for someone.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with all of these answers that I'm hearing. Danielle, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I think when I think of challenges I face, it's mostly with myself. Luckily, I work in an industry where, well, in the alliances, there's a ton of women. My entire team is all ladies, and I love it. And but I do think that one obstacle that I had to learn to overcome is like knowing my worth and asking for the salary that I deserve. So I think when I began working at New Voice Media, I was working as a front desk person at Salesforce. So I didn't know how much I can ask for, and I didn't know what that gap would be, and I don't know what my male counterparts at the time I was working at New Voice Media as a program manager. I don't know what the program managers were making at that time. And I didn't do the research, and there were just a ton of things that I should have done to set me up today to be at a different, salary level or something like that. So I think that if there was anything I would do differently, was just kind of know my worth and negotiate and ask for what I deserve and just to make sure that it's equal and there's no wage disparity between me and any other colleagues in the business.
Absolutely. And there's some great resources out there now with like levels and Glassdoor. So definitely encourage all of you watching to check those out while you're negotiating. Thanks, Danielle. Yeah. Marina, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I think that in all the teams I have worked, I felt I was part of the team. But it's true that, as Amitha has commented, in some key meetings, I would have liked to be more proactive, so just to speak up to the other, to be confident. Sometimes Italians. And then when finish the meeting, I say, hey, Marina, why you have not shared your idea? If your idea could be good, so maybe the company is going to lose that. So I think that in this situation, I'm trying to improve that every day.
Wonderful, thank you. Moving on to leadership now. How do you all define leadership? And how has your leadership style changed over your career? Danielle, how about you start us off for this one?
Yeah, I think when I think of leadership, it translates to me as like advocacy. So being an advocate for your team, like I think of my manager now who's identified what everyone on the team is really good at and made sure that she gave us roles that fit what we're really good at. I think that it also, you can be an advocate for yourself. You can lead a charge within a company and, I think about the Black Experience Group and the two co-founders and all the people who jumped behind it. They challenged the status quo, and then they led a charge of Vonage's first ERG, and also Lauren's group. Lauren did the same thing, and it's I think leadership is just being an advocate internally within yourself and the people around you as well.
Absolutely. Lauren, how about you go next?
Advocacy was the one word I had for this particular question you had. So Danielle, I love when we're well aligned.
We're aligned.
I know, right? It feels good. Synergy. Anyhow, no, I also think, right, it's about creating and searching for opportunities for my team to grow outside, back to this comfort zone concept, to develop from moments that feel maybe a little uncomfortable or things that they don't know or don't feel confident in yet, and to encourage and to be the person that believes in them to be able to achieve that. And yeah, then same thing, like push myself, don't plateau, don't feel comfortable being an expert on everything. And so it's why I stream every week on Thursdays, where I try to learn something new. And it's a little terrifying to not know, but if we can model, that curiosity, it might, hopefully the rest of my team will then feel enabled and confident to, just push and to be bold in learning new things and taking on bigger and brave challenges, if you will.
Absolutely. Marina, how about you?
Yeah, sure. I think that is not an easy question. So for me, leadership is what you make of it. There are a lot of definitions. So maybe you have heard you need to lead as a woman with your skill. You don't need to clone any men leadership style. The leadership doesn't have any gender. And I agree with the majority of them. But I think that by staying positive, owning who you are and admitting when you are wrong, you are going to be confident. And if you are confident, you can walk into any situation. So during my career, I think that at the beginning I was more focused. Yeah, I have seen that how my leadership skill have changed, and also how these skills are put to test often. So at the beginning I was more focusing on defining my path, my personal and professional path, growth. Then I try to be more strategic in what I want to work and with whom, so to develop relationship. And now I'm trying to focus and to be more concrete and start to help others to growth as well. But in my opinion, whatever the age, I think that there is some rules that all the good leaders should take into account. And these are: be present, be relevant, and for sure, learn to give and receive feedback. For me, that is the main part.
Yeah, so well put. Thank you, Marina. Amitha, I'm curious as to what you have to say about this as one of our product leaders, director of product.
I absolutely agree with Marina. It's basically the confidence in yourself that makes you a good leader. So for me, actually, I grew from an individual contributor to a leader. I was an amazing individual contributor. And when I got promoted to a leader, I was very excited to be a leader. And I wanted to bring all the recipes of success of my previous role into the new role. And I terribly failed at it. Actually, it was the type A personality and the immaculate execution. And it took very little time for me to realize that this needs a complete change of thinking, right? So that's when I started thinking about how a good leader should be. And I totally agree with what all our panelists have said here today. And I really think that as a good leader, empowering people is necessary. And one of the biggest challenges of managing small teams or large teams is finding that right balance between going very deep on a topic and stepping back and trusting others to take care of it. And as team grows, learning that giving this trust to the team is very, very essential. So I think that is what I wanted to add in addition to what everybody else have told here today.
Excellent, thank you. My next question is more about, I guess, how we feel within our workplaces and the kind of the respect and the opinion others have of us in workplaces. So we often hear women speaking about feeling dismissed or not heard. And this is across sectors, for sure. It's not just technology. But can you tell us about how this impacted your ability to develop and grow? How did you, or looking back, how would you handle those situations differently? Marina, would you like to go first?
Yes. Yeah, as I have commented, I have not feel that in only thing that I have well, but one of the things is the meetings. So I think that we have already commented to be confident. So my recommendation for this situation is don't be silent, speak up to the other, be confident. So you need to share your ideas. It is not enough to develop a role or to have a seat on the table, you know. And especially don't take it as a personal thing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Lauren, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of this is me also. There's also been so many moments of imposter syndrome. And I think I've learned recently to, instead of trying to combat it, to just embrace it. Like, it's going to be there. Sometimes I will feel as though I don't belong or whatever. And just instead, like, it's a part of my daily process to say, okay, hello, welcome to the chat, imposter syndrome. Like, you're going to be here today and still going to have these meetings and present to a board or, be a badass. I don't know why I even mumble that a bit, but like to back to this confidence piece and to stop the glorification of like this overworking rock star coder, right? Like, we have familial balances, and I think demonstrating and modeling a good work-life balance is important too. And so there's just a lot of pieces that our society and culture glorify that I think we can like slowly but surely tap away at and try to like celebrate some new pieces to it.
That's great. Thank you. Amitha, how about you go next?
I've seen this happen in meetings, and I've been very fortunate that in Vonage I work with very, very good and great colleagues. But in many different forums outside work as well, I've seen if a male colleague repeats the same sentence as a female colleague, it is acknowledged more. And I think it's a matter of representation. And I feel that as leaders, we have to strive for higher representation of women in most of the fields. And I think it's also the responsibility of bosses or managers to ensure that women's voice is heard. Because I certainly feel that women do a better job of speaking up in meetings. And it's just the encouragement that they need to get this going. So, yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. So Lauren touched on this briefly, but many women in tech struggle with some degree of imposter syndrome. Have you ever felt that you were not good enough or not technical enough to be where you are today? If so, how did you handle that? Some people will say, act as if, or fake it till you make it. Would you agree or disagree? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's see. Amitha, how about you go first?
Sure, yeah. So I've been fortunate to have good mentors in my career who guided and encouraged me. So most of my mentors said, be bold and be yourself, right? So I've always been a technologist at heart, and I never let it go. But I think as I raced through ranks, I found myself in meetings with leaders, mostly men, and I would always hesitate to ask a question. And that has always been there because I thought the folks around me would think that I'm not good enough if I ask a question. So there was always this thought. But then I would ask it anyway. What's the worst thing that's going to happen, right? So I would ask it anyway. And I found that most of my colleagues acknowledged that in a positive way. And after 2-3 such instances, I let go of that hesitation, right? So I felt that like a tad bit of boldness and positive encouragement of and being myself, right, were big contributors for me to fight that imposter syndrome, if you call it that way. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. Marina, how about you go next?
Yeah, I think everyone has experienced the imposter syndrome. Females, senior, junior, every day I find a situation where I don't know something. But my mother always say to me, you need to know the value of yourself. Don't let others to devalue you. And I think that if you feel that, it means you are growing, you are improving your skill. So my recommendation for this situation is when you feel this syndrome, you need to think how much work and how hard you work it to be there. So for that, it worked always for me.
I love that. Thank you. Danielle, how about you go next?
Yeah, I think I suffer through imposter syndrome almost every day. I think it's so easy to be self-critical, and it's so easy to look at my career and say, you got lucky, you met the right people and that's why you're here today, instead of saying, no, I worked my ass off to be here, staying up late and working full time in high school and going to school, going to school full time and all of this stuff. And I think what I try to tell myself is that I worked hard to get here, but I think something that I'm implementing now is just kind of jotting down my accomplishments every day. Like if I do something really small, I'm just going to write it down. And then at the end of the day, I can look at it, or the end of the quarter, I can look through it and say, manager, I did this, this, and this. This is totally new. I haven't done this for a long time. I started literally this month. But it's something that's going to help me feel less, I guess, suffer less from imposter syndrome, and just remind me that I did work hard to get here. And I think that when you think about, either fake it till you make it, or, act as if you're a man that's been doing this forever, I don't think that's the right way to go. I think that when you can sit down and you can say, I don't understand this, but I'm going to work on it until I do, it just shows grit and it shows humility. And I think that's so much stronger than faking it. And I think people just respect that so much more.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought up like that hype doc, or the document where you track all your accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing that last year, and it totally impacted my confidence as well. So
I love that. I'm going to call it a hype doc now.
I don't think I came up with that, but yeah. Lauren, how about you go next?
No, I think that's all such good advice. A rainbow journal is what I call it, of like just my success. I think in tech, it's very easy. There's always going to be a bug in your code, and you're always going to be overwhelmed by something that you don't know, because it's impossible to know everything in the world of code. And so it's easy to get bogged down by that particular confusion or problem or bug in your code, but then to have that like tangible log of things that you've learned this week, this month, this quarter, whatever. It's a nice just reminder, I think. So I think that's like incredible advice. And instead of like this piece of like not staying confused and speaking up when you don't know jargon that's being used during a meeting. As you mentioned, I think it's, of course, there's going to be someone else in the room that's like, oh, thank you for asking that question. And I think just suffering silently is something I did for far too long, because I thought that I was the only person that didn't understand. And so it ends up being a moment where you're advocating for a whole lot of people. And it's a moment to demonstrate leadership as well, to not be afraid to ask questions and to poke holes at things. So I echo it all. I really appreciate everyone's thoughts on it so far.
Absolutely, me too. I've been paying such close attention to these answers. I don't remember. Amitha, have you gone yet?
Sorry, Nahrin?
Have you answered this question already?
Yes.
Yes, you have. We started off with you. All right. Well, I'm seeing a lot of comments in the chat that are really, really appreciating these answers and finding a lot of value in them. So thank you so much for being so candid with these answers. Our panelists have been wonderful so far. Just to wrap up, the last question before we go into the audience Q&A, what advice would you offer to other women who are looking to lead in their workplaces? So I know you've been sharing a lot of advice throughout these conversations we've been having, but is there anything you'd like to leave folks off with? So what is your last piece of advice for people? Amitha, how about you go first?
Be brave, make a bet on yourself, and that begins by challenging ourselves to our own value more fully. And I think that's the biggest piece of advice I would give if I can. And I think there was one quote I want to really present, because I really love this. And this is by Vice President Harris. And it says, dream with ambition, lead with conviction, and see yourself in a way that others might not see you, simply because they've never seen it before. So I really love it. I have it written down on my desk, and it's a good quote.
I love that as well. I'm going to have to write that down on my desk. That's wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing. Lauren, how about you go next?
Something that was told to me very early on is let's celebrate one another and our successes, and not to feel competition. I don't think I'm really here for it. Like, there's room for all of us at the top. So let's create those opportunities and celebrate and feel excited for one another when we do have successes, and help each other along the way. Like this, community is the only reason I am where I am now. And I think like the opportunity to build a network of women leaders in tech and beyond is such an awesome opportunity. And so I, appreciate this panel, even Nahrin putting this together, and us all sharing our stories together. Like, let's just do this all the time, and like shout them from the mountaintops. So I just love the idea of us all cheering each other on and collaborating as much as we possibly can.
Fantastic. We rise by lifting others, right?
Yes.
Danielle, what would you like to add?
So I think definitely do something every day that scares you. But secondly, just ask for the next promotion. The day that you get a promotion, ask what you have to do to get the next one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you should always just, if you think you deserve a little more money, then ask for it. I think we just shouldn't be afraid to ask for more than what we're getting. And if you don't, then you'll stay stagnant and you'll stay comfortable, and you never want to be that. You want to continuously be uncomfortable and continuously grow. And just make sure that you're, if you're interested in doing marketing, ask for some marketing work. If you're interested in doing, dev, ask for some development work. So just constantly ask for what's next and what you're interested in, and just don't stop asking for it.
Right. So advocate for yourself every day.
Absolutely.
Marina, how about you?
Yeah, one of the things I have learned is that we need to be here. We need to be active. We need to be proactive here. I mean, networking and collaboration. But also we need to, my recommendation is be yourself. You don't need to be a superwoman. Don't be afraid to ask for questions, for help. Don't worry about that. And also, you need to make sure that you surround yourself people who make you better and stronger. That is my recommendation for all.
Amazing. So be your authentic self every day, and get yourself a great community of folks around you, a good support system. Thank you so much for that. We do have some time allotted for questions from our viewers. So for those of you watching, please post your questions in chat. I know we've got some already, but feel free to add to that list, and we'll get to as many as possible within our time together. So just scrolling up here, I'm seeing a question from Luke. So Danielle, this is for you. Do you have confidence that a complaint would have helped back then compared to the rightly changing landscape we're in today? So I believe that they're referring to you sharing your story about how men would make advances and ask you out and things like that.
Yeah, I think that depends the culture of your company, right? I think at Salesforce, which I was working at Salesforce at the time, that would have definitely been nipped in the bud. I think at BMW, where it's definitely a male-heavy environment, it wouldn't have even got a second. It wouldn't have held in when I chatted with my manager or anyone else. So I do think that it depends the environment of your company. And if I would have brought it up to someone at Salesforce, I'm sure that I could have done some damage there. I should have. But I think today, every company has kind of stepped up and made sure to listen to these accusations and make sure to take them seriously. And yeah, there's definitely a difference between now and then, but the culture of the company absolutely decides whether it would be taken seriously or not.
Absolutely. We have a couple questions that are fairly similar. So this question comes from Daniela. Do you think the industry and gender biases have changed since you joined? Have you seen an increase in the number of women working in tech? And Amelia also chipped in here. According to what you're seeing in Girls in Tech, Marina, do you feel like the gender gap in tech is starting to close? So Marina, how about you take this one away?
Yeah, sure. That is a good question. And the answer is no. I mean, that we have started to do a lot of, so there are a lot of organizations. We have started to move the community to try to shift the balance and to close the gender gap. But the number in the university, for example, I know especially the number here in Spain have not improved a lot. So I mean that at the company, yeah, I think that there is more woman as a developer woman, but the expectation, I mean, the result is not the expected in the short term. But that is the reason why we need to continue working together to try to shift the balance.
Wonderful, thank you. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add to that? Any of our other panelists?
I mean, I think that especially in the past year, we've seen just a ton of unrest in our country. And I think that a lot of organizations are realizing that, your social impact will influence the way people think about your company and the way they buy from your company. So I do think that there's a difference. I think we see a lot more women in leadership positions as far as, the C-suite or maybe the board of directors. But I do think that companies are starting to take a different look at the way that they are highlighting different women throughout the company and minorities, people of color, and all of that, all of the above.
Yeah, there's something interesting too of trying to do it retroactively versus like if you're starting a company, you're building a team, it needs to be at the forefront of your mind at the beginning, because trying to change it, as we see, is complicated because you've established, your company to look and think exactly as you do. And so like, it's just perpetuated something bad there. And so just to like allow it, we know that it brings value to a company, and there is like, business justification for it too, if you need that, investment for it. Like, and so to be very thoughtful when crafting early on, if you have the opportunity to do so, it's important.
Absolutely. Amitha, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think I agree with the panelists here. I think the gap is still there. I think it's shrinking, and I think it's very important to encourage women to join tech and leadership positions. I think at the leadership level, things are improving, but we still see that gap. So I think the responsibility of the organization as a whole, but I think responsibility at every level of the organization, at every individual level, that we sort of encourage women into these positions, have think about diversity and think about the value that they bring. I think it's all about thinking about the value, not the numbers. And that's where I think I feel we could do a better job still.
Absolutely. Yep. Marina, did you have something to add?
Yeah, one of the things I would like to highlight is the education. So I think that is really, really important. So we need to inspire the girls. We need to say, yeah, the technology, I think that at the company level, but also with the children, so we need to inspire them. We need to say there are a lot of opportunity, there are a lot of profile, and we are doing amazing things. And the first step for me is at home and the school with the children, at the education side.
Yeah, I think just to echo that, Marina, I grew up in New York City in the Lower East Side in a low-income area where opportunities in technology were never, talked about, or people that I grew up with never worked in tech. So I didn't even know what opportunities in tech look like. So I absolutely agree with you. It's definitely about educating everyone about, the wonders of tech and all the opportunities that that we all have been so lucky to experience.
Absolutely. All right. So it looks like we have another question. This one's a little bit more on personal side. How do you balance work life and personal life? So who would like to start us off with that? Amitha, would you like to go first?
Absolutely. And I think this is the right time to talk about balancing work life and personal life, because last year has forced us or taught us so many things, right? And think in crisis, we sort of accelerate things and we think about it differently, right? So I would think about not as a balance of work life and personal life. I would probably think about it as a harmony between the work life and the personal life, because I think that even though you want to keep them separate, there is always the way you can blend them together and make them as part of your life. So it's basically where your work life shouldn't create a disharmony in your personal life, and your personal life shouldn't create a disharmony in your work life, right? So I think essentially that's how I would look like. And there is, I think, a big part of the organization and leaders in how they ensure their employees are given the opportunities to work on their personal things, have their personal time, and give them space to work on anything that is important to their family life. And in the same way, I think it is important for us as employees to make sure we allocate that space for doing the work, and make sure we have that commitment to the work, even though we have families around us, right? So I think it comes from both ways, but I would certainly look for that harmony and not stress too much about having work on one side and having personal life on the other side.
Right. Thank you. Anyone else want to add anything to that?
Go for it, Marina.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think agile methodology worked for me. So at the end, I'm trying to prioritize all personal and work, and I have time to do all. But especially, I think that in my case, I have fun with my profession. So I'm a developer, so I honestly, I think that sometimes I forget the rest of the thing. But when you are confident and you are comfortable and you like that, so it is easy to manage to have this balance between the life, your personal life and your professional life.
Yeah, I was just gonna echo something that Amitha said. I think 2020, where we would normally be at work and close our laptop at 5 and walk away, it's like you're stuck on your laptop until whatever time. And when you're done, you'll take your laptop from your desk and move it to the couch and continue working on the couch. It's just so easy to work. And I think something that I try to commit is like, at 6 o'clock, I'm going to close my laptop. Not all the time, because sometimes I'm like, I need to work until 8, but I think definitely making sure that you're taking time off too. I think just because we're home doesn't mean that you can't take time off. I should take my own advice. I don't think I've taken time off in a long time, but yeah, it's just, you have to take care of yourself. And if you feel like you've been on your laptop all day and it's too much, then close your laptop at 5 and just make that commitment for yourself. Maybe every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But definitely your health comes first, and don't be shy to just cut the work at a certain time.
Yeah, and to ask for help too, if that is like becoming stressful, and sharing that with the manager, or encouraging other folks on your team if you notice it seems like they're, you can see that in your team if you know them and trust them well. And I'm very grateful that we are a distributed team, and I was able to move last year from Seattle to Miami to be closer to my family, which was an immediate benefit to work-life balance, or just kind of like prioritizing family, but then also, you know, my in a way, I was a lot closer to my team, who's mostly in the UK. So it was a benefit in that regard too. But just sharing when you need support, and developing those relationships so that you, when life is up here, you know, to ask for support, to not suffer on your own.
Right. So very right. That's our last question for today would be, a lot of companies put a big emphasis on hiring more diverse candidates, but the focus, I feel, should really be on what happens next, like creating a culture, as some of you mentioned, that makes individuals feel safe and supported and valued and heard. Is there any advice you have for leadership at companies that you think could help achieve that? How about you go first, Amitha?
Definitely. So I think at a leadership level, so again, for me, hiring for diversity is very important, right? Because it's not just because of the numbers, but because of the talent and skill and the viewpoint that they bring to the table, right? So I think at the leadership level, there should definitely be a plan on how we can learn from all the programs that we have, and have a plan on taking those programs and implementing it, and making it part of the everyday everyday activity that we do at work, right? So it's not a program, maybe a program that runs for a few days and we forget about it, but how can we take learnings from that program, whether it is I don't know, maybe whether we are talking about female leadership, and taking that and implementing it, and making sure everybody is sort of aware of the female leaders in the company, and making sure they are given the right kind of encouragement and so on. So I think it really depends on how we take that and use it as part of our everyday programs that we implement in a team, or at the level of the business, or at the level of the organization. So I think that is more important, and that's how we should be looking at diversity.
Terrific. Thank you. Danielle, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think that managers should try or be aware of the safe spaces, right? So like if you have an employee that you're hiring that's a woman and a minority, letting them know these are the groups that you can go to for support, or this is, you know, we have mentorship here. These are the people that you can mentor if you have any questions for them. You know, I think just creating a safe space for those employees is really important, and it's something that leaders should absolutely do next steps after hiring.
Absolutely. Lauren,
and the path for feedback, right? Like a place for people to share criticism safely, and to know that that is going to be heard and valued and acted upon and collected, even like just, you know, kept record of, and that there's a path for advancement. I think we've spoken to that a lot today as well, but just that it's very clear where and how to career progress and get that money.
I love that. On that note, Marina, Danielle, Lauren, Amitha, thank you so, so much. This has been an absolutely amazing discussion, and I'm extremely grateful to have all of you share some of your thoughts and experiences. We're just under time by a couple of minutes, so I'm actually going to call that a success. Thank you, and thank you to everyone who tuned in today. We appreciate you, and we hope you're able to take away some valuable insights from our conversation. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Nahrin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.